Okay, now I've written most of the functions I'm going to need, and we'll go through that one in a second, but if I start right at the top. So we've seen the variables. I might label them as such. Nice long comment. Make it stand out. Right, there are my variables. Seen these ones before. As we scroll on the way down, I've also given a section for functions. So my get 5 cards function is still there. I've got the function new screen where I've moved the buttons, but I'll explain that one in a moment. Don't like it on the second screen. Right, there we go. Update screen. Now, what I've done is I've taken the code that we worked on in the last video and placed it into a function that I can call at certain parts. So when I've pressed a higher or lower button, I'm going to want to update the screen. When I reach the end of my game, I'm going to want to update the screen. So to do that one, I've tried to put it into a function where no matter what the current card is, which you'll see that I pass on through as well, I'm also going to replace the buttons, replace the certain images that I need to. Now please feel free, download a copy of this pseudocode from the Edmodo post, because it's going to be useful to just take a look through and work through it step by step. So I firstly read the image in from the random card for the current one, because I'm not going to replace any ones that come before it. I just need to replace the current one that we're on. I've then worked out backs needed. So if you imagine that it's your first time you're updating the screen, so there's no cards on the screen whatsoever at the moment, so your current card is 0, so it's the first one. As it goes on through, 4 minus the 0 gives you 4, so I'm going to need 4 backs of cards and 1 turned over. Now, if you were looking through on the challenge from the end of the last video, what I've done in this comment is say where the button's going to be positioned, so in this case row 3, column 2, and I'm also talking about the fact that it's going to call the function underneath. You can just about see guess there. Now I could have used this user input one, which is why I've got the documentation on the right hand side. I've used on click instead because it's more specific to what I'm going to have to do. I'm clicking on a button, not waiting for the user to type something in. So I've used on click. Now as I go through to guess, I'm going to check that the guess made, whether it's higher or lower, and whether or not it's a success or not. So I've replaced the jack, the queen and the king, mainly because it's very difficult to, say you had a 10 and you guessed higher, to check whether or not a J is higher than a 10 otherwise. So the guess made was higher. I'm going to say, well, if the random card or the current card that you're looking at is less than the next one, well then the next one is higher. And if you take a look back at the DFD, it's really this diamond we're working on, this question of whether or not the student is correct or not. And it's going to go either down the success route or the incorrect route. And then add to the game titles and everything at the bottom. Right. So on the function, I'm saying that I'm going to add to the session success count. I'm going to update the total count for it. So it's going to read in the file, it's going to kind of like update the game of all times numbers and the successes and how many cards the games they've played and all that sort of stuff as well. It's going to go through the incorrect ones. Now, if they guess lower, the random card that you're on at the moment, or the current card, has to be greater than the one that comes next. So it's going to be, my current card is greater than that one, so therefore the next one is lower. So my success is that because it's greater than the next one, fabulous, I've got a success. It's a little bit mathematical. One of the things that I'd suggest is, if you haven't looked at what trace tables are at this point, we're going to be covering them within the first couple of weeks back. So a trace table at this point will help you just test through your code as it goes on through. Now I'm going to update the screen after I've gone through all the successes. And new game is just here, just in case they've clicked the new game button, which was, I think it was up in the update screen. Yep, there it is. So we've got, if they press the restart, it runs a new game, and if they press end game, it runs close. A lot of information to go through, and it's very difficult to explain it over a video without being able to point at certain things and go through them in the detail that I'd want to. But every time they click new game, they're going to get a new screen. It's going to update with the new 5 cards and everything along those lines. Again, you're going to have to call new game to begin with. I haven't done 3 of the major functions that I'm going to need. So that is my next step, and I will be finishing this one before the deadline, which is up on Edmodo for the assignment post. Good luck. Make sure that you're following the DFD through that you've created for your project, because you're not doing the play your cards right one. Do have a look at what kind of things are you going to want to put into a function. So anything that you can see yourself happening again and again and again and again. The key point that I would say, if you end up copying and pasting any of your code, you should, and just leaving it exactly as it was, I would definitely suggest you take a look at whether or not a function would be more useful, because then you've only got to error check it once rather than over and over again, no matter how many times you copy and pasted it. Good luck. I look forward to seeing your finalized projects for the design section in the new term.